A method actor told Clint Eastwood, "My artistic process can't be rushed," after showing up late for the third day in a row. What Clint did next, in front of the entire crew, became legendary in Hollywood. So what did Clint do? He said 5 words. Just 5 words. And that actor's career ended right there. But here's the real question. What were those 5 words? And why? Were they so powerful? If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to Eastwood and Legends, because we'll keep sharing the real stories of Hollywood, the ones nobody knows about. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss these legendary moments. It was October 1992, filming Unforgiven in the remote Alberta Badlands of Canada. The location was brutal, harsh, unforgiving. Miles from civilization, surrounded by rocky terrain and endless prairie. The kind of place that tested everyone, every single day. Clint Eastwood was directing and starring in what would become one of his most critically acclaimed films. A revisionist, Western, dark, violent. Nothing like the Westerns Hollywood usually made. This film would go on to win 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. But in October 1992, none of that had happened yet. They were just trying to get through each day. The production was tight, disciplined, running slightly ahead of schedule. Exactly how Clint had built his reputation as a director. He respected budgets, valued crew time, finished films efficiently, without sacrificing quality. His sets were known for being professional, focused, drama-free. Cast and crew who'd worked with Clint before knew what to expect. 6 a.m. call times meant 6 a.m. Professionalism meant professionalism. No excuses, no exceptions. And the crew? They loved working with him, because Clint treated everyone with respect, from the lead actors to the production assistants. He remembered names, asked about families, made people feel valued. But he also expected one thing, the same thing he gave every day: commitment. Then, they hired someone we'll call Derek Matthews. Derek Matthews was a respected stage actor from New York, 38 years old, trained at Juilliard, method acting through and through. He'd recently gained attention for an intense performance in an off-Broadway production. Critics called him transformative, raw, uncompromising. His agent had been shopping him around Hollywood, looking for that breakout film role. When the Unforgiven casting call went out, his agent pushed hard. Derek's perfect for this. He's serious, trained. He understands character work. Clint's casting director, a woman named Sarah who'd worked with Clint for years, had reservations. She called Clint after Derek's audition. "He's talented," she said carefully. But he has a reputation for being difficult." "How difficult?" Clint asked. Sarah sighed. "Very method, very particular about his process. He spent 3 months living homeless for a role once. Refused to break character between takes. That kind of thing. He's been fired from 2 productions, both times for conflicts with directors." Clint was quiet for a moment, considering. He appreciated actors who took their craft seriously. He'd worked with method actors before. Some of the best performances he'd ever seen came from that approach. But he also knew there was a difference between dedication and self-indulgence, between commitment to craft and using process as an excuse for unprofessional behavior. Give him the part, Clint decided, but make sure he understands how we work here. Make it very clear, this is a tight production. Everyone pulls their weight. Derek Matthews signed the contract, flew to Alberta, attended the first production meeting. It was held in a large tent, makeshift but organized. The whole cast and crew gathered, about 80 people, all listening as Clint laid out his expectations. He stood at the front. Casual clothes, that weathered face everyone recognized, speaking quietly but clearly. "We've got 37 shooting days," Clint said. "That's tight. Very tight for a film this ambitious. Which means every day matters. Every hour matters. When your call time is 6 a.m., I need you here at 6 a.m. Not 6:15, not 6:30, 6 a.m. The crew works incredibly hard. I expect actors to match that energy. We're all telling this story together. Nobody's more important than anyone else. Questions?" Derek Matthews sat in the back, arms crossed, looking around the tent with barely concealed disdain. Sarah, the casting director, noticed. She'd seen that look before, on actors who thought film sets were beneath them. After the meeting, she pulled Clint aside. "Did you see Matthews?" "I saw," Clint said quietly. "Give him a chance. Maybe he's just nervous." But Sarah wasn't convinced. The first day Derek Matthews was scheduled to shoot was a Monday. Call time, 6 a.m. sharp. The location was a remote ranch, an hour drive from base camp. They needed the morning light, that golden hour just after sunrise, for the scene they were shooting. The entire schedule for the day, built around that light. At 5:30 a.m., the crew was already on location. Grips setting up equipment, camera operators checking lenses, makeup artists preparing their stations. By 5:45, other actors were in costume and makeup, having been in the chair since 5 a.m., early, cold, professional. At 6 a.m., Clint was in his director's chair, reviewing the shot list, mentally rehearsing the day's work. The entire machine was oiled, ready, waiting. 75 people, prepared to work. But Derek Matthews' trailer door remained closed. Dark. Silent. At 6:15, the first assistant director, a man named Tom, walked over and knocked politely. No answer. He knocked again. Louder. Still nothing. Tom looked back at Clint, uncertain. Clint gestured. Try again. At 6:30, Tom knocked harder. Derek, we're ready for you. Finally, movement inside. But the door didn't open. At 6:45, Tom knocked again, frustration creeping into his voice. Derek, everyone's waiting. We're losing the light. The crew, standing around, began shifting uncomfortably, checking watches, whispering to each other. This wasn't how Clint Eastwood sets worked. At 7 a.m., the door finally opened. Derek Matthews stood there, still in his street clothes, hair uncombed, looking genuinely annoyed. Not embarrassed, not apologetic, annoyed. As if being woken up was an inconvenience. "I'm preparing," Matthews said, his tone making it clear he thought the AD was being unreasonable. "My process requires deep internal work before I can inhabit the character. This can't be rushed. This isn't some sitcom where you just put on a costume and say lines. This is serious acting." Tom, the AD, a man who'd worked on over 50 films, took a breath. "Derek, we're losing the morning light. The entire crew has been waiting for an hour." Art doesn't work on a schedule, Matthews replied, and then he closed the door. Tom walked back to Clint, shaking his head. He's not ready. Says he's preparing. Clint looked at the sun, already higher in the sky than he wanted. The golden hour, slipping away. He made a decision, the only one he could make. We'll shoot around him. Move to scene 14. The crew scrambled, reorganizing, moving equipment, resetting. All that preparation. Wasted. By the time Matthews finally emerged at 8:30 a.m., ready to work, they'd lost the morning light completely. They had to reschedule his scene, push other scenes back, throw off the entire day's plan. Clint said nothing to Matthews. He simply adjusted the schedule, got him through his scenes efficiently, kept the production moving. But he was watching, noting, remembering. That evening, back at base camp, Tom found Clint reviewing the next day's schedule. "What do we do about Matthews?" Tom asked. Clint was quiet for a moment. "Give him another chance. Maybe today was a one-time thing." But Tom knew, from the look in Clint's eyes, that there wouldn't be many more chances. The second day, Matthews was scheduled. The call time was again 6 a.m. Same crucial reasons, same morning light, same remote location, same 75 crew members who'd woken up at 4:30 a.m., driven an hour, prepared everything perfectly. At 6 a.m., Matthews's trailer was dark and silent. At 6:15, still dark. The crew was getting visibly frustrated now. Yesterday had been frustrating enough, but a pattern was emerging. Some of the crew members, who'd been setting up since 5 a.m. in the cold, started making comments. Is he serious? Does he think we like getting up at 4:30? Who does this guy think he is? At 6:30, Tom knocked on the trailer door. No answer. At 6:45, he knocked harder. Finally, Matthews opened the door. He was wearing a bathrobe, holding a cup of coffee, as if he were on vacation. "I told you yesterday," Matthews said, clear irritation in his voice now. "My artistic process requires time. I need to meditate, to center myself, to find the character's emotional truth. This isn't television, where you just show up and hit marks. This is cinema. This is art." Tom, normally a patient man, felt his jaw tighten. "Derek, we have 75 people waiting. The same 75 people who were here yesterday at 6 a.m. They've been ready for almost an hour. Then they'll learn patience," Matthews replied dismissively. "Great performances can't be manufactured on an assembly line. Real art takes time," and he started to close the door. Tom put his hand out, stopping it. "Derek, this isn't working. If you can't make your call times, we have a problem." Matthews looked at him with barely concealed contempt. "My call time is when I'm ready to perform. If that's a problem for you, perhaps you should work on less serious films." He closed the door. Tom stood there, stunned, angry. He'd worked with difficult actors before, prima donnas, egos, temperamental artists, but this was different. This wasn't passion for craft. This was disrespect. He walked back to Clint, who was standing with the cinematographer, looking at the sun. "He's not coming. Not for another hour at least." Clint nodded slowly. "Move to scene 22. Again, the entire crew scrambled, reorganized, reset. Again, the carefully planned morning schedule. Destroyed. Matthews finally emerged at 8:45, over 2.5 hours late. By then, they'd completely lost the light they needed for his scene. When Tom explained that they'd have to skip his scene, shoot it later, losing another perfect lighting window. Matthews shrugged, actually shrugged. "If the light isn't right, the light isn't right," he said, as if this vindicated his lateness, rather than being caused by it. Clint watched this exchange from his director's chair. He said nothing, his face unreadable. But inside, a decision was forming. That evening, Clint's producer, a man named Bill, approached him in the production office. "We need to talk about Matthews." "I know," Clint said. 2 days, 2 major delays. We're losing budget. We're losing schedule. Every hour we're not shooting costs thousands of dollars. The crew is getting frustrated. Morale is dropping. "I'm aware," Clint said quietly. "So what do we do?" Bill asked. "Do we warn him officially? Threaten him? What?" Clint was quiet, staring at the schedule on the wall. "1 more day," he finally said. "Let's see if this is who he really is. And if it is," Clint looked at Bill, "then we'll know." The 3rd day Matthews was scheduled was critical. It was his biggest scene in the film, a dramatic confrontation that required precise timing with other actors, complex camera movement, and specific natural light. They'd get maybe 90 minutes, at most, of the right light. They'd scheduled extra crew for this, brought in additional equipment, coordinated multiple departments. This scene had been marked on the schedule for weeks. Everyone knew this was the day everything had to work perfectly. Call time, 6 a.m. sharp, at 5:45 a.m. The entire crew was not just ready. They were perfect. Every mark taped, every light positioned, every camera loaded and ready. Actors in full costume and makeup, having been in the chair since 4:45. Everyone waiting for Derek Matthews. At 6 a.m., his trailer was closed. At 6:15, still closed. The crew, now visibly angry, started talking more openly. "This is unbelievable. Does he not care about anyone else? Who raised this guy?" At 6:30, Tom knocked on the door. No answer. At 6:45, he knocked louder. Nothing. Tom looked back at the crew, at Clint, unsure what to do. And then, Clint stood up from his director's chair. The entire crew, all 75 people, stopped what they were doing. Watched. Because Clint standing up, walking across the set. That didn't happen. Clint directed from his chair. Quietly, efficiently, invisibly. Him walking across the set to personally address an actor meant something significant was about to happen. Everyone felt it. Clint walked slowly, deliberately, across the set. His footsteps, the only sound. When he reached Matthews's trailer, he stopped, looked at the door for a moment. Then he knocked, hard, 3 sharp raps that echoed across the silent set. After a long moment, the door opened. Derek Matthews stood there. Bathrobe again, cup of tea in hand, looking annoyed. When he saw it was Clint, his expression changed slightly, but not to apologetic, to defensive. "We're ready for you," Clint said, his voice quiet. "I'm preparing," Matthews replied, his tone suggesting this should be obvious to everyone. "My artistic process can't be rushed. I need to access deep emotional memories for this scene. It takes time. It takes... What time was your call? Clint interrupted, his voice still quiet but with an edge now. Matthews blinked, thrown off. Call times are administrative convenience, he said, launching into what was clearly a prepared speech. Real acting, serious acting, requires going to places that can't be scheduled. I'm not some television actor who hits their marks and delivers lines on cue. I'm creating a character from the inside out. That process, that deep internal work. Can't be. What time? Clint repeated, not asking now. Stating. His quiet voice, somehow carrying more authority than shouting ever could. Was your call? The entire crew, watching, holding their breath. Matthews hesitated. 6. But that's just a... It's 7 a.m., Clint said, each word deliberate and final. You're an hour late. 3rd day in a row. 75 people have been waiting for you. People who got here on time, despite having the same early call you did. People who've been up since 4:30, who drove an hour to get here, who've been standing ready. Matthews recovered, launching back into his justification. Great art requires sacrifice. Those people are being paid to wait. That's literally their job. My job is to create something transcendent, something that will last beyond this production schedule. You, of all people, should understand that real artistry can't be confined to... Pack your things, Clint said. The words, cutting through Matthews's speech like a knife. Matthews stopped mid-sentence, mouth open. Excuse me? Pack your things, Clint repeated, his voice still that same quiet rasp. You're fired. There's a car waiting to take you back to Los Angeles. You have 30 minutes to be out. Complete silence. 75 people. Frozen. Watching this unfold. Matthews laughed, a nervous sound that echoed across the quiet set. You can't fire me. We're in the middle of production. You need me for... No, Clint said simply. We need someone professional. Someone who respects other people's time. Someone who understands that filmmaking is collaborative. That's not you. Pack your things. Matthews's face flushed red. This is insane. I'm creating art here. I'm giving you the performance of a lifetime. You can't fire someone for taking their craft seriously. Clint's expression didn't change. I'm not firing you for taking craft seriously. I'm firing you for being late 3 days in a row, for showing no respect for the 75 professionals who've been waiting for you, for drinking tea in your bathrobe while everyone else worked. My process, Matthews started. Your process, Clint interrupted. Your process involves being on set when you're supposed to be on set. If you can't do that, you can't work here. Pack your things. Matthews looked around, at the crew, perhaps expecting support or sympathy. He found none. 75 faces, staring back at him, with zero sympathy. Some angry, some satisfied, none supportive. You're making a huge mistake, Matthews said to Clint, his voice rising now. I'm the best actor you'll ever work with. You're letting ego destroy what could have been. 30 minutes, Clint said, cutting him off. Then he turned and walked back to his director's chair. Every step deliberate. Calm. Final. Matthews stood in his trailer doorway for another moment, apparently waiting for Clint to change his mind, or for someone to intervene. Neither happened. Finally, he went back inside and slammed the door. The sound echoed across the set. Clint sat back in his director's chair, picked up his script, turned to his first AD. "Call the actor we screen tested who came in second. See if he can be here tomorrow. Reschedule Matthews' scenes for next week." Then he addressed the crew. "We're moving to scene 22. Let's not waste the morning." And just like that, it was over. The crew erupted into activity, grateful to finally be working. Several crew members were smiling. A few were trying not to laugh. The mood, which had been tense and frustrated, suddenly lifted. Within 25 minutes, Derek Matthews emerged from his trailer with his bags, looking furious, face red, jaw tight. A production van was indeed waiting to take him back to Los Angeles. He climbed in without speaking to anyone and left. Clint didn't watch him go. He was already focused on the next shot. The story spread through Hollywood before Matthews' van even reached the airport. Clint Eastwood fired an actor for being late and citing artistic process. It became the talk of the industry within hours. By the next day, it was in Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, entertainment news everywhere. Matthews' agent tried to spin it, calling it creative differences or scheduling conflicts. But too many crew members had witnessed what actually happened. And in Hollywood, crew members talk. The truth came out. Matthews had been fired for being unprofessional, for disrespecting his fellow workers, for hiding behind artistic process as an excuse for bad behavior. The impact on Matthews' career was immediate and devastating. Other directors who'd been considering him suddenly weren't interested. Producers asked pointed questions about his reliability, his professionalism, his attitude. Studios put him on unofficial difficult actor lists, the kind of lists that follow you forever. Within 6 months, Matthews was back in New York, doing regional theater. Within a year, he was teaching acting classes, his film career essentially over. The promising Hollywood breakthrough that his agent had worked so hard to build, completely destroyed. By 3 late arrivals and 1 conversation with Clint Eastwood, the actor Clint hired to replace Matthews, a character actor named Robert, showed up 15 minutes early every single day, knew his lines perfectly, hit his marks, delivered an excellent performance that contributed to the film's eventual success, and became one of Clint's regular actors, appearing in 3 more of his films. Because that's how it works when you're professional. Unforgiven went on to win 4 Academy Awards. Clint won Best Director and Best Picture. The film is now considered one of the greatest westerns ever made, a masterpiece of the genre. Derek Matthews, when he's remembered at all, is remembered as the actor who was fired from Unforgiven, for showing up late and lecturing Clint Eastwood about artistic process. Years later, in an interview about directing, Clint was asked about the incident. His response was characteristically brief. Film sets require discipline. Not because of some authoritarian philosophy, but because hundreds of people are coordinating complex work. When one person decides their process is more important than everyone else's time, they're not an artist. They're just selfish. But the crew members who were there tell a more detailed story. They talk about how 75 people had been standing ready at 6 a.m., 3 days in a row. How they'd lost perfect morning light 3 times. How Matthews had dismissed their time as unimportant while he meditated in his bathrobe. And they talk about how Clint's firing of Matthews wasn't angry wasn't dramatic. It was matter-of-fact, delivered in that quiet voice, with the same calm he brought to every directing decision. "Pack your things. Car's waiting. 30 minutes?" The incident became legendary, not because it was loud or theatrical, but because it was the opposite. It was Clint simply drawing a line, saying, "This is where professionalism matters. This is where your talent doesn't excuse your behavior. This is where we remember that film sets are communities of artists working together, and if you can't respect that community, you can't be part of it." To this day, "artistic process can't be rushed" is a phrase you don't want to use on a Clint Eastwood set, and showing up late while everyone else is ready is a career mistake you only get to make once. Because Clint taught Hollywood something important that day, that real artists, true professionals, understand something fundamental. Your time doesn't count more than 75 other people's time. Your process doesn't excuse disrespecting your colleagues. Your talent doesn't give you permission to be selfish. And when you forget that, when you start believing your own importance outweighs everyone else's contribution, you get 5 words: pack your things. And 30 minutes. If this story of accountability and respect moved you, subscribe to Eastwood and Legends and share it with someone who needs to remember. Talent doesn't excuse unprofessionalism, and real artists respect the people they work with. Have you ever seen someone confuse self-indulgence with dedication? Share your story in the comments.